Hey, shalom, shalom, mishpocha. Welcome to another edition of the Haftarah Hashings. This is Haftarah Hashings number 30, and it's called Kedoshim, and it means holiness. The passage is from Ezekiel chapter 20, verses 2 through 20. Now, in the Torah portion, it's dealing with what is called in Judaism the holiness code. And basically, the Haftarah portion, what really speaks to me, what I really get out of it is that, this holiness code, this Torah that has been given to the first generation who came out of Egypt, they dropped the ball, they failed, they died in the wilderness. The second generation come up, and before they entered the promised land, the Torah was given to them afresh once again, and they rededicated themselves to it once again. We see that in the book of Judges, they failed to keep that. And, at different times in Israel's history, we see that there is a rededication, a reaffirmation of the acceptance of Torah upon the life of the Israelite people. During Ezra and Nehemiah's time, when they returned from captivity, they rededicated themselves to Torah, even all the way to the Brit Chadasha in the book of Acts, when during Shavuot, Pentecost, they rededicated themselves to Torah, because Shavuot commemorates the giving of the Torah. So we have an opportunity every year to rededicate ourselves and accept the Torah upon us once again. Also within the halakha of Yeshua the Messiah, because he said, take my yoke, take my halakha upon you. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. He said, I make it simple for you, clear and easy, clear cut on how to keep the Torah, how to walk the Torah. Forget all these man-made additions to it. I'm going to show you how to keep it. You've heard it said, but I say to you. So he's establishing his messianic authority when he says that phrase. So it's inevitable, because we live in a fallen world, because we live with a sinful, fallen human nature from our mama and papa, Adam and Eve, and it's passed down. We have this sin condition, this sinful nature. And so, we dedicate ourselves to the Torah, and as time passes by, and as life happens, and we get sidetracked, we get busy, we end up in a place where we're looking around, and we're like, wow, how did I get here? And we realize that we've dropped the ball, that we've failed to keep the Torah. And so ever so often, because of our human nature, we need to stop, we need to take a personal inventory of our life, and we need to rededicate ourselves. This is what the High Holy Days are all about. This is what Shabbat is all about. We have a weekly opportunity to rededicate ourselves to Torah. We have annual opportunities throughout the year, through the High Holy Days, to remember the Torah, to rededicate ourselves to Torah, especially at Yom Kippur, where we can start fresh and start with a clean slate. Shavuot, where we even remember the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. And we accept that we're frail, and that we're human, that we fail, but yet that God is merciful, and this is what grace is all about, not giving us permission to forget the Torah, not giving us permission to sin, but giving us the opportunity and the permission to rededicate ourselves afresh to Torah. Because you know what? Sometimes we need to start over, and that's okay. Because life happens, that happens. And some people are better than others than staying on track, and it's not that people have to rededicate themselves to Torah each week or even annually. Some people can make it and have a consistent life and a consistent holy life, but then there's others that may not be as much of a tzaddik as somebody else, or as far along in their spiritual walk as somebody else, and they really, really need those weekly opportunities to rededicate themselves. They really, really need these annual opportunities to remember what's important, to take personal stock and inventory of their lives, to clean out the closets, to clean out the clutter, to start over, to turn over a new leaf, and to start things fresh. So Kedoshim, holiness. Kedoshim, holiness. What does holiness mean? Holiness just means to be set apart. It's a fancy word with mystical meaning. Kedoshim, holiness. Ooh, what does it mean? It simply means to be set apart. We set aside ourselves and set ourselves apart for the work of the Lord, for the work of God, for the work of Yahweh. And throughout life, we get busy with menial things, with mundane things, and we forget about our set-apart status, and we just kind of blend into the everyday life and the everyday background. And sometimes we have to stop, take a step back, and set apart ourselves again. Kedoshim, rededicate ourselves again, set apart ourselves again, and say, oh, man, God, please forgive me, I forgot. Help me to stay on track here. I'm going to set myself apart again for you, because I am, we are a nation, a holy nation. We are a nation of priests, of royal ambassadors for Hashem. So let's make this a regular practice, where even our times of daily prayer, The bedtime Shema should be a time where we take personal inventory. You know, how did I live my day? How did I carry out my day today? Did I do what was pleasing to the Lord? What wasn't pleasing? Whatever wasn't pleasing, how can I do better next time? How can I change that? And when we make rededication a daily activity, it's not so traumatic when we have to rededicate ourselves weekly. It's not so traumatic when we have to rededicate ourselves monthly. It's not so traumatic when we have to rededicate ourselves annually. It'll be easier and easier to draw closer to Him, to stay closer to the Torah, to stay kedoshim, and we won't have so far to set ourselves apart. It'll only be little increments that we have to set ourselves apart, because we just, we step out of line just a little bit. If we take it on a day-to-day, one day at a time basis. So hopefully this wasn't too much of a jabbering session here, and you really got the heart of what I was trying to say. So enjoy the Haftarah portion this week. We'll talk to you later. Shalom and Shavua Tov. Bye-bye.